The allegations Meghan has made are simply not true. Her account does not reflect what actually happened, and it has led the public to a deeply misleading impression. That version of events has no basis in...
The royal battle lines have not just been redrawn, they have been reinforced with absolute structural steel. In an immediate, calculated, and devastatingly swift counteroffensive, Prince William has officially shattered the illusion of a grand royal reconciliation concocted by the Sussex public relations machine. The Prince of Wales did not wait for the ink to dry on the tabloid headlines, nor did he allow the echo of Prince Harry's recent podcast appearance to dictate the narrative of the British monarchy. With the surgical precision that has come to define his stewardship of the institution, William has executed a definitive public and private pushback, drawing an unyielding, permanent boundary between the Crown and the Duke of Sussex. This rapid response is not merely a temporary strategic maneuver, it is a profound declaration of institutional self-defense designed to target the global audience observing the palace's every move, sending an unmistakable signal that the House of Windsor is no longer a passive participant in Harry and Meghan's media games. The catalyst for William's sharp intervention arrived exactly 3 days after a highly secretive, carefully managed encounter at the Highgrove estate. On July 10, the gates of the King's Gloucestershire residence opened to receive Harry, Meghan, and their 2 children, Archie and Lilibet. To the casual observer, and certainly to the Sussex's American media network, this moment was framed as the ultimate emotional breakthrough, a long-awaited family reunion where fences were mended and past grievances dissolved over a shared teapot. Yet, the carefully curated piece lasted less than 72 hours. Harry almost instantly utilized the narrative capital of this private family audience to anchor his appearance on a widely circulated podcast hosted by Joe Mara. During the broadcast, Harry adopted a strikingly casual, almost triumphant demeanor, speaking with a level of comfort that suggested the traumatic rifts of the past 6 years had simply ceased to exist. He casually threw around his traditional titles, introducing himself unequivocally as a Prince of England and the Duke of Sussex, while glibly defining his current occupation as a combination of a full-time dad and a British Army veteran. For Prince William, watching from Adelaide Cottage, this display was the final confirmation of an exhausting, predictable pattern. Harry was once again attempting to convert private, conditional family access into a highly lucrative commercial currency, seeking to re-establish his royal authority ahead of the highly publicized Invictus Games scheduled for 2027. William's response was swift, surgical, and uncompromising. Through calibrated palace briefings and absolute, frozen silence from his own office, the Prince of Wales made it clear that a father's private affection must never be confused with the institutional endorsement of the heir to the throne. While the public sat transfixed by Harry's relaxed podcast performance, William systematically exposed the reality of the Highgrove meeting, reframing it not as a triumphant royal restoration, but as a tightly controlled exercise in diplomatic containment. The message from the future king was delivered with chilling clarity. The crown will not be weaponized to validate a commercial brand in California, and Harry's self-proclaimed status as a working Prince of England is a profound delusion that the palace refuses to entertain. To fully understand the depth of Prince William's immediate counter-strategy, one must first recognize the deliberate emotional tension that existed behind the walls of Highgrove on July 10. Prince William is not a robot. He is a son, a brother, and a deeply observant heir who understands the profound human vulnerabilities currently affecting the heart of the royal family. Sources close to the Prince of Wales emphasize that William felt a genuine sense of understanding and deep personal sympathy regarding the decisions made by his father, King Charles III. The king is currently navigating a grueling, highly taxing battle with cancer, a medical reality that naturally alters any man's perspective on time, legacy, and family unity. William completely recognized that for a father and a grandfather facing such profound health challenges, the desire to look his youngest son in the eye and hold his estranged grandchildren, Archie and Lilibet, whom he had not seen in person for 4 agonizing years, was an entirely human, deeply emotional necessity. William did not oppose the meeting on a personal level. He did not begrudge an ailing king the simple comfort of a family embrace behind closed doors. However, it is precisely at the intersection of private emotion and public duty that William's iron boundary was forged. The core of William's current philosophy can be distilled into a singular, unshakable maxim. The compassion of a vulnerable father does not, under any circumstances, dictate the constitutional policy of the future king, While Charles acted from a place of paternal leniency, William looked at the situation through the cold lens of institutional continuity. The Prince of Wales immediately established a rigid separation of states. He made it known within the palace hierarchy that while the king had every right to grant a private audience to his son, that audience carried absolutely zero weight regarding the official standing of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex within the structure of the working monarchy. In the inner chambers of the Prince of Wales's office, the consensus remains entirely unchanged. In the clear, unvarnished thoughts of William, the fundamental issue dominating the relationship with the Sussexes has never been a simple debate over whether Harry remains a member of the bloodline. Harry will always be a biological member of the family. His DNA is unalterable. The true, overriding problem, the only metric that actually matters to the future of the crown, is whether Harry can ever be trusted again. A single, brief afternoon meeting characterized by polite conversation and the formal serving of tea cannot, and will not, answer a question that has been compromised by years of systematic public betrayal. William remains completely convinced that Harry has done absolutely nothing to earn back the immense trust he shattered when he walked away from his country and his duties. For the heir to the throne, the priority is absolute. The protection, long-term survival, and dignity of the British monarchy must supersede any temporary, sentimental family desires. William understands that the institution he will one day inherit is bigger than the emotional needs of any individual royal, including his father or his brother. By drawing this sharp, immediate line, William effectively neutralized Harry's attempt to paint the Highgrove meeting as a formal reconciliation. He communicated directly to the global public, the British government, and the international media that the palace doors remained structurally locked against any half-in, half-out arrangement. The meeting was a localized act of grace from a father. But as far as the future of the monarchy is concerned, William's institutional door remains firmly, permanently, and definitively closed. The strategic necessity of Prince William's uncompromising posture becomes even more pronounced when one examines the calculated aftermath of the Highgrove gathering. For the Prince of Wales, the true nature of his brother's intentions was never a matter of speculation. It was a matter of absolute certainty. William possessed an intimate, lifelong understanding of Harry's behavioral patterns, enabling him to predict with chilling accuracy exactly how the Duke of Sussex would exploit the private grace extended to him by their father. The prediction materialized with clockwork precision precisely 3 days after the secret meeting concluded. The illusion of a humbled son, seeking quiet family redemption, evaporated the very moment Harry stepped in front of a microphone to record a strategic appearance on a prominent new podcast hosted by Joe Mara. During this broadcast, the public witnessed a masterclass in narrative manipulation that validated every single one of William's deep-seated anxieties. Instead of displaying the quiet humility expected of someone granted a rare, highly sensitive audience with an ailing monarch, Harry exhibited an air of supreme comfort and casual triumph. To the observers watching the international broadcast, Harry appeared entirely untroubled by the immense wreckage he had left behind in London. He spoke with a disarming fluidity, acting as though the agonizing public warfare of the past several years had been nothing more than a minor misunderstanding. The Prince of Wales watched with controlled fury as his brother effortlessly readopted the prestigious institutional vocabulary he had formerly discarded, introducing himself with absolute confidence as a Prince of England and the Duke of Sussex. When questioned about his day-to-day existence in California, Harry chose to define his identity not through the lens of concrete corporate achievement, but through the romanticized titles of a full-time father and a British Army veteran. To the untrained eye, it was a relaxed, charismatic performance designed to charm a global audience. To Prince William, it was a calculated corporate relaunch. The timing of this podcast was far too precise to be considered accidental. William recognized immediately that this sudden surge of royal self-identification was a deliberate effort to generate massive global relevance and commercial momentum. With the next iteration of the International Invictus Games rapidly approaching, Harry desperately required a fresh infusion of authentic royal legitimacy to sustain his multi-million-dollar American media contracts. The Highgrove meeting provided the perfect narrative fuel, allowing the Sussexes to project an image of royal restoration to their commercial partners in Hollywood. However, the podcast appearance was only the first phase of the media strategy that William had already anticipated and mapped out. The Prince of Wales's intelligence network within the royal estates quickly flagged an even more troubling development. The quiet, highly symbolic excursion of the Sussex family to Althorp, the ancestral home of the Spencer family, and the final resting place of the late Diana, Princess of Wales. This specific geographical move represented a profound escalation in the eyes of the future king. Althorp is not merely a historical estate. It is a sacred sanctuary dedicated to the memory of a mother whose legacy has been fiercely guarded by her eldest son. Prince William has openly declared his absolute determination to dedicate his entire heart and strength to protecting his mother's memory from being commercialized, vulgarized, or exploited for public relations maneuvers. The realization that Harry and Meghan had entered the Spencer ancestral grounds created an immediate, profound alarm within William's circle. The Prince of Wales understood with absolute clarity that this visit was not a simple pilgrimage of grief or remembrance. It was a calculated attempt by the Sussexes to align themselves with the tragic romance of the Spencer legacy at a time when their direct connection to the reigning House of Windsor had been severely restricted. With the major 30th anniversary of the passing of Princess Diana approaching, the commercial appetite for content surrounding her life remains astronomical. William saw directly through his brother's maneuvers, recognizing that the journey to Althorp was designed to secure emotional footage, anecdotes, and narrative currency for future television documentaries and upcoming multi-million-dollar publishing deals. By intertwining the private meeting with the king and the symbolic visit to Diana's resting place, the Sussexes were attempting to build an alternative royal mythology, one that bypasses the authority of the reigning monarch and the future king entirely. William's rapid public relations counteroffensive was designed to dismantle this exact illusion before it could take root in the public consciousness. He ensured that the global media understood the strict limitations of the Highgrove encounter, emphasizing that no amount of podcast self-branding or sentimental visits to ancestral graves could alter the reality of Harry's total institutional isolation. The Prince of Wales effectively demonstrated that he is no longer willing to allow the memory of his mother or the dignity of the crown to be utilized as marketing assets for a California-based entertainment brand. Through his decisive actions, William sent an unmistakable signal to the world. He sees every single card Harry plays, he understands the underlying commercial motives, and he possesses the strategic fortitude to block them at every single turn. While the international media remained completely captivated by Prince Harry's confident declarations on the global podcast stage, Prince William made sure that the actual reality of the Highgrove encounter was systematically laid bare to the public. The Prince of Wales was entirely determined to neutralize the carefully constructed illusion that the Sussexes had achieved a significant diplomatic breakthrough or a quiet restoration of their former status. Through calculated and precise strategic communications originating from within the broader royal apparatus, William directed public attention toward the incredibly rigid, highly restricted parameters that governed the entire afternoon of July 10, proving that the palace had treated the visit not as a joyous homecoming, but as a carefully contained diplomatic event. The first major realization that William brought to the forefront was the absolute enforcement of what court insiders have termed the formal tea ritual of a guest. When Harry, Meghan, and their children crossed the threshold of the King's Gloucestershire residence, they were not welcomed with the open warmth reserved for active, trusted members of the working monarchy. Instead, the hospitality extended to them was strictly formal, brief, and heavily managed. They were received under the precise protocols governing non-working relatives, ensuring that the entire interaction was kept at a deliberate, undeniable distance. The duration of the meeting was tightly limited to a little over an hour, leaving absolutely no room for deep tactical negotiations or the casual family relaxation that Harry later implied during his public interview. The most devastating blow to the Sussex public relations strategy, however, was the absolute and uncompromising execution of the dynamic ban on visual documentation. Prince William had been a fierce advocate for total visual isolation, and his stance was fully reflected in the palace's operational orders for the day. The mandate was absolute. There would be no official photographs, no informal digital snapshots, no television cameras, and no shared media releases. The King and Queen did not stand alongside Harry and Meghan for a single frame, and the palace firmly refused to release any documentation confirming that an interaction had even taken place. For the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, this lack of visual evidence was an absolute disaster for their branding strategy. William understood perfectly that in the modern entertainment economy, physical access without photographic proof is virtually useless. By ensuring that the world never saw a single image of the king standing next to his exiled son and grandchildren, William directly and immediately neutralized the commercial viability of the entire trip. The Sussexes were completely denied the specific royal stardust they required to validate their business ventures in the United States, leaving Harry with nothing but verbal descriptions to share during his media appearances. Through this brilliant tactical containment, William successfully demonstrated that while a vulnerable father could offer a brief moment of private grace, the institutional machinery of the British monarchy would not provide a single pixel of marketing material to individuals who had spent years attempting to dismantle its reputation from abroad. The operational rigidity enforced during this encounter served as a precursor to a much larger, structural revelation. While Harry was busy spinning a narrative of effortless reunion, William's counteroffensive laid bare the cold reality that the Sussexes were no longer viewed as family members who had simply moved away, but as high-risk public relations liabilities that required active management. Every detail of the Highgrove visit, from the strict scheduling to the lack of overnight accommodation, was designed to project a specific message to the global audience. The Duke of Sussex is a private guest, not a royal partner. By strategically deconstructing the meeting, William also sent a powerful message to the international corporate entities currently bankrolling the Sussex brand. He made it clear that the Crown's intellectual property is not a public resource available for commercial exploitation. Any company signing multi-million-dollar deals with the California couple under the impression that they are purchasing a direct pipeline to the heart of the British monarchy has been sold a profound delusion. The Prince of Wales has effectively established a cordon sanitaire around the sovereign, ensuring that private family interactions are completely decoupled from public validation. The era of the Sussexes leveraging their proximity to the throne to secure Hollywood contracts is officially over, dismantled by a future king who values the dignity of his office far above the commercial aspirations of his estranged brother. To firmly establish that the administrative decisions of the monarchy were not temporary gestures of frustration but permanent institutional decrees, Prince William emerged as the primary architect behind the maintenance of an unyielding legal and physical perimeter. The Prince of Wales has consistently maintained that the official boundaries separating the House of Windsor from the Duke and Duchess of Sussex must be enforced with absolute legal precision. This stance served as a direct and immediate counterstrike to Harry's recent public relations maneuvers, sending a clear message that the palace would not tolerate any revisionist history regarding their permanent non-working status. William wanted it understood globally that the formal decrees issued by the Crown were structural realities that no casual podcast interview could ever dissolve. The foundations of this containment strategy rest upon a series of definitive measures that William has fiercely defended over the past several years. The first major boundary was established when the palace formally confirmed that the Sussexes would never return as working members of the royal family. Consequently, Harry's honorary military appointments and the official royal patronages held by both individuals were permanently revoked and redistributed to active members of the family. Furthermore, though they retained their titles as the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, they were strictly stripped of the right to utilize the prestigious style of His or Her Royal Highness in any commercial endeavors or daily public life, effectively removing the sovereign authority from their personal branding. The physical separation was made absolute following the publication of Harry's highly controversial memoir. With the full consensus and strategic backing of Prince William, King Charles III officially demanded that the couple surrender the keys to Frogmore Cottage, their last remaining official residence in the United Kingdom. This eviction effectively ended their physical footprint on royal property, ensuring they would remain nothing more than private visitors whenever they returned to British soil. To further secure the institution from future exploitation, William personally initiated a policy of total communication isolation, cutting off all direct private contact with Meghan to eliminate the threat of private conversations being leaked to American television networks. Most importantly, William ensured the complete termination of Meghan's access to the infrastructure of the monarchy. This included blocking her entirely from royal charitable networks, prohibiting her from utilizing the official family archives for private historical research, and ensuring her total exclusion from formal state guest lists and private palace communication channels. By reinforcing these severe restrictions right after the Highgrove visit, William effectively countered Harry's confident media performance. The Prince of Wales made it undeniably clear that the institutional doors are permanently padlocked, and no amount of casual public relations maneuvering will ever allow the Sussexes to regain the royal privileges they so decisively threw away. This defensive fortification extends far beyond the restriction of physical spaces and historical archives. It represents an absolute embargo on institutional intelligence. William recognized that the primary lifeblood of the Sussex media empire is the commodification of exclusive palace insights. By implementing a total media blackout and severing all informal channels of staff communication between London and California, the Prince of Wales has effectively choked off the supply of narrative oxygen that his brother desperately requires. Furthermore, this systematic enforcement serves as a critical protective shield for the next generation of the royal family. William is acutely aware that his own children, particularly Prince George as the future heir, must inherit an institution that is stable, dignified, and entirely uncompromised by the chaotic dynamics of modern celebrity culture. By making the exclusion of the Sussexes absolute and legal, William is proactively securing the future reign of his son, preventing the creation of a dangerous precedent where disgruntled family members can weaponize their royal titles against the state from a foreign continent. The legal perimeter is not an act of malice. It is an act of profound, visionary statesmanship designed to ensure that the integrity of the British throne remains unshakable for generations to come. The strategic necessity of Prince William's uncompromising posture becomes even more pronounced when one examines the historical precedents within the British monarchy regarding those born into the precarious position of the alternative heir. To fully expose the profound selfishness and systemic failures of Prince Harry's recent actions, the Prince of Wales has frequently looked to the behavior of other senior members of the royal family who occupied similar structural positions within the institution, but chose a path of absolute dignity. In the calculated view of William, the comparison between Harry and individuals such as Princess Anne, the Princess Royal, or Prince Edward, the Duke of Edinburgh, serves as a devastating indictment of the Duke of Sussex's complete lack of personal accountability and public duty. Throughout the modern history of the House of Windsor, the individuals who do not reside within the direct line of succession to the throne have always faced a distinct set of personal and professional choices. Princess Anne and Prince Edward both understood from the moment of their adulthood that their primary function was to support the reigning monarch and uphold the collective dignity of the crown while carving out individual lives, respected the boundaries of the institution. Princess Anne has consistently been recognized as one of the most hardworking and dedicated members of the royal family, conducting hundreds of official engagements every year with an absolute refusal to court media adoration or complain about the structural restrictions of her birthright. Similarly, Prince Edward has quietly and effectively assumed immense responsibilities, taking over the legacy of the Duke of Edinburgh's International Award and representing the sovereign with a silent, dignified professionalism that never seeks to overshadow the main line of succession. These senior royals manage to build fulfilling personal lives, pursue individual interests, and maintain their unique identities without ever compromising the security of the palace or releasing private family conversations to the highest corporate bidder. They recognized that the privileges they enjoyed were inextricably linked to a code of absolute discretion. In stark contrast to this legacy of quiet service, Prince Harry chose a path characterized by profound public betrayal, commercialized resentment, and an insatiable desire to inflict maximum reputational damage upon the very institution that nurtured him. For Prince William, the glaring disparity between the silent devotion of his aunt and uncle and the destructive grandstanding of his brother is the ultimate proof that Harry's behavior is entirely inexcusable. The Prince of Wales remains deeply scarred by the immense, systematic emotional warfare that the Sussexes unleashed upon the family, particularly the deeply malicious and calculated attacks directed at his wife, Catherine, the Princess of Wales. William views the public accusations, the highly orchestrated American television interviews, the multi-part streaming documentaries, and the deeply invasive details published in Harry's memoir as an unforgivable violation of familial sanctity. These actions did not merely disrupt the daily operations of the palace. They were deliberate attempts to dismantle the character and psychological well-being of senior royals who were bound by constitutional duty to remain silent. The damage inflicted upon the reputation of the monarchy and the personal peace of Catherine is, in the eyes of the future king, completely irreversible. Therefore, When Harry attempted to utilize his brief appearance on the global podcast stage to project a narrative of casual reconciliation and effortless royal belonging, William interpreted the move as a profound insult to the intelligence of the British public and the dignity of the family. The Prince of Wales believes that a single afternoon tea at Highgrove cannot wash away years of malicious public hostility, nor can it erase the memory of the profound distress inflicted upon an ailing monarch and a protecting family. By instantly rejecting the validity of Harry's podcast self-branding, William sent a definitive message to the world: the era of royal leniency is entirely over. Harry made a deliberate, calculated choice to walk away from his duties, to abandon his country, and to weaponize his heritage for financial gain in Hollywood. Consequently, the Prince of Wales has ensured that the door to working royal status is not merely closed, but permanently welded shut. Every subsequent effort by the Sussexes to play the role of the victim, or to fabricate a sense of royal restoration, is viewed by William as a transparent, desperate gesture that he is fully prepared to dismantle at every turn. The ultimate resolution of this ongoing royal Cold War does not depend on the public relations maneuvers generated in California, but on the unwavering institutional memory preserved within the walls of London. To fully comprehend the absolute permanence of Prince William's strategy, one must examine the stark contrast between Prince Harry's past behavioral choices and the uncompromising reality of his current situation. The Prince of Wales has made it entirely clear that the historical record cannot be erased by a single afternoon of polite conversation or the strategic recording of an American podcast. William remembers with absolute clarity the exact nature of his brother's departure: a volatile, deeply public exit that was executed with a calculated level of hostility designed to cause maximum damage to the British monarchy. In the volatile period surrounding their departure, Harry and Meghan did not merely request a modification of their official responsibilities. They launched an unprecedented public campaign against the very foundations of the royal apparatus. The Prince of Wales remains deeply aware of the specific timeline of grievances, from the sudden deployment of independent websites to the highly damaging television interviews broadcast across the globe, while the late Queen Elizabeth II was navigating her final years of sovereign duty. These were not the actions of a confused younger brother seeking personal freedom. They were the deliberate choices of individuals attempting to create a rival, commercialized court that could exploit royal status for global financial gain without adhering to any of the accompanying duties. The memory of these actions remains completely vivid in the mind of the future king, ensuring that his current defensive posture is based on years of documented behavior rather than temporary frustration. It is precisely because of this history of systemic betrayal that the specific structural details of the Highgrove meeting on July 10 carry such massive institutional significance. While Harry attempted to project an image of effortless belonging and mutual forgiveness during his subsequent media appearances, the actual physical reality of the encounter demonstrated a profound and deliberate maintaining of distance. The king's decision to receive his son was characterized by strict institutional boundaries that William fiercely supported from afar. There were no grand accommodations offered, no invitations to remain on the estate for an extended duration, and absolutely no indications that the family was being reintegrated into the internal life of the monarchy. The entire interaction was managed with the precise neutrality reserved for individuals who have voluntarily placed themselves outside the circle of trust. For Prince William, the fundamental lesson of the Highgrove encounter is that the burden of reconciliation rests entirely upon the shoulders of the individual who caused the destruction. The Prince of Wales firmly believes that it is Harry who must assume full accountability for the immense personal and institutional suffering he has generated over the past 6 years. The idea that these profound wounds can simply sink into the background or be wiped clean from the public memory without a formal, comprehensive apology and a prolonged period of demonstrated loyalty is an illusion that the future king refuses to entertain. William understands that the British public, who watched the systematic vilification of their long-standing traditions and senior figures, expects the monarchy to maintain its dignity rather than surrender to the demands of a commercial brand. As the royal calendar moves forward toward the international events of 2027, the boundaries established by the Prince of Wales will remain entirely non-negotiable. William's swift and decisive response to the podcast interview has effectively established the permanent rule of engagement for the future. Harry may continue to utilize his biological titles in commercial settings. He may describe himself as a Prince of England to international audiences. and he may attempt to align his brand with the tragic memory of their late mother at Althorpe, but he will do so as an absolute outsider. The institutional machinery of the crown will no longer provide the validation, the access, or the photographic material required to sustain the Sussex media empire. Through his absolute steadfastness, Prince William has successfully protected the long-term integrity of the throne, ensuring that the legacy of the monarchy remains defined by silent duty, absolute discretion, and an unwavering commitment to the nation, rather than the shifting demands of modern celebrity culture.